we found out midway during the royal premiere in London about Mandela's.
So while it was actually screening?
Yeah. And
Wow.
we came out. We were asked to leave, to step out, and had a discussion about how best, whether to continue with the screening or not, or whether to just end it midway and make the announcement. And the decision was made in conjunction with Zinzi and Zinani, Mandela's daughters, that the screening should go ahead, continue, and not be stopped. So I went back in, and it was so harrowing and so upsetting to watch the movie, knowing that he had died. So, and I was sobbing.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to go through that again.
Of course.
Yeah.
Has this been the first screening since then?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So it must be incredibly emotional
Yeah.
for you all.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we appreciate
Because, I'm playing a character that fell in love with Nelson Mandela and loved him for a long time. So you're not your character, but you have to feel all those kind of emotions. You have to do all this kind of research about this person. So you do feel this deep connection with them, even though I've never met Nelson Mandela.
But you have ever met Winnie, I understand,
Yes.
and she's quite a fan of your portrayal, I hear.
Yeah, which I'm very pleased of.
Which that must mean a tremendous deal.
It means so much. To have the person that you're actually portraying say, yes, you've done a great job, and yes, you've managed to capture me, is huge.
I mean, whenever you're playing any real life character, particularly someone that's as divisive as she is, you must have had a huge amount of fear going into the project.
I didn't, because naively enough, I didn't really know that much about Winnie. I didn't know how controversial she is. I didn't know about what a political activist in her own right she was. It was a real education for me to actually do the research and find out who she is, and that even gave me more impetus to want to tell her story and want to tell her story faithfully, because I felt like too often women are written out of history, and here was an opportunity to have a woman who is really vilified generally, particularly in the Western press, and to have an opportunity to tell her story as I think it truly was,
So tell
give her a
us,
fair hearing in a way.
Of course, yes. Yeah. So tell us, what is she actually like in person? How did that first meeting go? And
in person, she's incredibly gracious, generous. She's 76 she's 77 now. She was 76 when I met her, so she's frailer. She's not the firebrand that she was during the time I was playing her. She's calmed down a lot. Her daughter say that she's found a lot of peace, but she's still at heart a political being, and she's still, I sense, from talking to her, a lot of frustration that South Africa hasn't made the huge kind of changes that she would have liked it to make, that there's still this massive gulf between the rich and the poor, and I felt this sense that if she was 20 years younger, she would be out running for president if she could.
But presumably this movie would do some good towards addressing that, and that gulf you're describing, and focusing international attention back on the country.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping so. And inspire South Africans themselves, to remember the legacy, to remember how hard-won freedom was for that country. Thousands of people lost their lives to ensure that South Africa is in the position it is today. So I think it's really important that that's remembered and celebrated in order for people not to abuse that freedom now or take it for granted, because now there are huge problems still in South Africa, but at least they have the freedom, freedom, and so let's see what more that they can do with that, let's see what radical shifts they can make over the coming years.
And one of the things I've heard Idris has obviously said that's been publicised is that you really, really struggle with the accent. How did you find it?
Oh yeah, I definitely struggled with the accent.
Yeah?
Absolutely. It's a really tough accent to
I know.
get. Really hard. I had an accent coach who came to my hotel room for 1 to 2 hours a day throughout filming, and really worked with me on that. Yeah, because it's a really important way of accessing the character, because it's not just an accent. It teaches you about the thought patterns, the thought processes of the person you're playing. It teaches you about the culture that they're from. Teaches you about their ways of expressing themselves. So it's really important to get it right. And I remember my accent coach saying, look, she's South African and she lives in Soweto, in Johannesburg, and she was like, there's no middle ground with this. You have to get it right. Like, that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
It's you got it or you don't. It's like, so she was really tough on me.
As we've seen in so many biopics, it's an easy place to slip up. But I'm glad to say both you and Idris were fantastic.
Thank you.
With your accents and your performances in general. You also had a huge amount of chemistry. I mean, I presume you guys got on pretty well from what I understand.
Yeah, we did, and we had the same birthday. We were both born on the 6th of September, so I think that has something to do with it. But we actually only have 10 minutes of screen time together. So
is that all?
Yeah. So most of our scenes were actually done separately.
But they're some of the most memorable scenes. By far. Yeah. One that I particularly remember is when Mandela says to Winnie, "You've got the most beautiful face I've ever seen in the world." Oh, I did want to ask you, has anyone ever said that to you in real life?
No.
No? Oh. So what was it like having Idris saying that to you as Winnie?
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? I mean, that's what every woman wants to hear, so it's very charming.
And the other thing you've also said that's caused a bit of stir about Idris is you once made the Bond remark. Is that something you'd still be up for, starring with him in that?
So, that came about because a journalist said to me, if Daniel Craig wasn't playing Bond, who would you want to play the next Bond? And I said, well, I just finished working with Idris Elba, had a great time with him, and so I would say him. And the title was Naomie says Idris Elba to be next Bond. And then everyone's just run with it since. And like in every interview now, they're always like, so you want Idris Elba to be the next Bond? So I'm like, and the thing is, it's not just me now who has to live with it. It's also Idris is asked. So he's like, Naomie, thanks very much for that.
It's not a bad idea though, surely.
It's a great idea, but we have a wonderful Bond in Daniel Craig, so...
And will we be seeing you on screen with him anytime soon?
Yes, I'll be in the next Bond, which they're starting to film next year.
You're starting to film next year. Any idea where?
No idea where. No.
Okay. No. Well, that's a great joy for people around the world. I mean, that film was obviously the second biggest grossing film in the world last year.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's changed.
One of the 5 top grossing films of all time, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's changed your life immeasurably. Have you got your head around that?
It hasn't changed my life at all, really, which is great. It's changed my career in terms of there are more opportunities, which has been fantastic. But on a personal front, it hasn't changed anything. I'm still like getting on and off the tubes and not being recognised at all, which I love because I cherish my anonymity. It's really important to me. So I'm really pleased that hasn't changed.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really great.
So looking back at the whole process, the film and the hype surrounding it before and after, is there anything you wish you'd done differently with that movie?
I think worried less and enjoyed it more, because especially in that kind of franchise, you're so well looked after and taken care of that you can afford to sit back and allow other people to just kind of look after you and take the strain and not feel as though... I think what was difficult for me during that period was that I couldn't say I was Moneypenny. So I always felt that in every interview there was a kind of landmine potentially that I was going to step on. So it was kind of nerve-wracking doing interviews and doing all the press.
But of course that meant you went from being a one movie appearance to potentially being in the franchise some time.
Yeah.
So what would you say you enjoyed most from the whole experience then?
What did I enjoy most? I think just playing this character, Eve, she's a really fun character, she's really feisty, and really independent, and I loved playing, being in a Bond movie and playing a woman with a difference, a modernised version of a woman more representative of women today. I loved having the opportunity to revitalise that,
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm being told I've got one question, but could I possibly have two?
I'm sure you can.
So, I've got 3 actually. So talking, the last one question.
Yeah.
Is it really, it's meant to be every woman's fantasy, what's it really like when Daniel Craig looks at you that way?
What's it like when Daniel Craig looks at me that way? Well, he's a hunk, isn't he? So it's every woman's dream. It's every woman's dream.
So you're going to endorse that, okay.
Yeah.
And will we be seeing you in any more Pirates of the Caribbean, do you think?
Pirates of the Caribbean, I don't think so, no, because my character died. She
I thought
disappeared
they might be doing a prequel, or what they're like these days. I imagine them writing you back in.
Oh, really?
Given your newfound international superstardom.
Well, I haven't heard anything about that.
Flashbacks, dream sequences, no?
No one's been knocking on that front.
And lastly, you met Obama.
Yeah.
How was that?
Huge. And we went to the White House and met the Obamas. We met, Barack Obama and Michelle as well. And I'll never ever forget that. And, he actually knew who I was, which I could not believe. The first thing he said to me was, the last time I saw you, you were kicking some serious butt in Skyfall. And I was just bowled over. I was like, the president knows who I am. Like, how weird is that?